What's up, guys? So today we're doing the Nmap live host discovery. So this box, I actually really like it because we're starting to fall into what you're going to see during a pen test type things. You're going to start seeing a pattern. You're going to see what methodology they're going to use, what type of different techniques and things like that. So the big thing with this one I like is because you saw before the different enumeration techniques and stuff. Now we're actually starting to scan the host. We're starting to actually get into the reconnaissance of the hosts themselves. So I really like that. There's different, it uses the site and then it uses the attack box once, so you're going to see me cut back and forth. But this is the first of the Nmap series basically for the junior pen testing. And we're going to just go ahead and dive right into it. So it's telling us here we need to be familiar with a couple of terms first. A network segment, subnetworks. Hopefully you guys know what that is, but if not, we'll explain it as we go. All right, so you can see here, this is the site they want us to use. All it is it's just, if you guys have ever used Packet Tracer or anything like that, it's kind of like that. It's going to show us the path that packets take. That's all it's going to do. All right, so firstly, if you guys don't know what a subnet is, this is kind of explaining it. You can see here there's A, B, C, and D network, and these are all almost contained within their own networks is what it is. So, and then they can actually talk to each other, but there's certain roles, responsibilities, things like that, and that's where, rules come into place as far as ACLs and things like that. So, like I said here, there might be firewall enforcing policies on each network. So, this might say you can only come to this network if there's a website here that you need to access, and this network only hosts web servers, for instance. That's just an example, things like that. So you can see it's just telling you have different subnets, one with a 16 and one with a 24, which just tells you how many hosts you can have. That's outside the scope of this box, but basically, if you guys don't know about what a -16 or -24 network is, that's fine. Go do the networking boxes and you'll learn a lot. Alright, so this is giving us a good example of first. So it says from computer 1 to computer 1, an ARP request. If you guys don't know what ARP is, so an ARP request is when your box sends out a request and says, hey, I want to send this to so-and-so over here. It doesn't know what IP address that is because most home networks use DHCP, which changes your IP address. So it has to say, hey, whose IP address is this? Or, if I want to talk to John over here, what's his IP address? I need to send it to him. So when it does that, and you'll see it here, it sends it out to everybody, gets everybody's ARP requests. So watch, you'll see it here. Boom. So you see it sends it to the switch. It says, I want it, but this doesn't have, it can't go to computer 6 because it's on a different network. So when we send it, it asks, which one of you is computer 6? No one responds because none of these are computer 6, okay? So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. What it's doing is saying, hey, who's computer 6? I need to talk to him. And it sends it to everybody on their network. That's what ARP does. When it does that, if computer 6 is on that network, it'll send back the actual computer 6 will respond and say, hey, I'm computer 6. And then the computer that sent the request will store that in their ARP table. And then that way in the future they know, hey, computer 6 is over here, let's send it. All right, so when we send that device, or when we send that request, how many devices can see the ARP request? Well, you can see when we send it, it's pretty obvious. And we're not including the switch on that, so there you go, you got 4, you can see it. Did computer 6 receive the ARP request? No, we saw that it didn't go through, and that's because ARP can only go on the same subnet. Keep that in mind. That's important to know, especially when scanning. All right, so now you'll see if we change it to computer 4, now we're on this subnet, and we send the packet. So here it goes out to everybody, boom, and then computer 6 says, hey, I'm computer 6, and sends it right back. You see that? And if we change this to computer 5, we'll see the exact same thing, but we'll see it basically coming from computer 5. Hey, I'm computer 5. Perfect. Okay, so how many devices saw it? Same number, 4. And did they respond? Yes, they responded. Perfect. So that just gives you a little bit of kind of what an ARP request is doing. If you guys aren't familiar with ARP, you can look it up. It's not very complex. It's pretty simple. It just kind of tells where things are for, or who's holding an IP address at that time. All right, so before we dive into details, it says here, I think, is this the one? Yeah, this is the one we need the attack box. All right, so we're in the attack box. Boom. All right, so here it's saying this is just showing a list. So different ways that you can scan is all it's showing. So here you can list out three different, the IP, the actual URL, so on and so forth. And you can see there's three different, that'll scan all three. You can do a range, so you can do like an IP with a TAC and then whatever number, and then you can see that's going to scan all 5 of those, 15 through 20. And then you can do an actual subnet, which is the TAC or the /30, or like they had in the last one, /24 or 16, and that just tells it what IPs. Now again, if you're not familiar with subnetting, don't worry about it. Go ahead and do the subnet boxes. I think I might have a tutorial on subnetting. I can't remember. If not, let me know in the Discord and I'll try and get one up. But basically, if you're not familiar with subnetting, that's beyond the scope of this box itself, but it's just telling you that you can use these formats to actually do scans. Okay, so you can also provide input as a file. So what that means is I can say, hey, I want to scan all these lists of hosts. So let's say you go into a pen test and they say, hey, here's all the hosts that we want you to be able to target, and we don't want you to step outside this scope, whatever. Okay, cool. We don't have to scan the whole subnet. We don't have to scan that. We have a list of the hosts, and we'll only scan those hosts. So that's why it's important to have a list sometimes. All right. So what is the first IP address Nmap would scan if you provided this? And so what it's saying is it wants us to go ahead and do this. So it shows us here. If you want, this is an important thing to note too, if you're doing a lot of scanning because you don't have time or you don't want to sit there for 4 or 5 hours, whatever. If you want to check the list of hosts that Nmap will scan, you can use Nmap SL targets. So this gives you an example here, Nmap SL, and then the target we want 10, 10, 12, 13, TAC 29, and this will show you what they'll scan rather than scanning it. So you can see this is what it would look like if you actually did it. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, that's all right. But okay, so 10, 10, 12, 8. So let's go ahead. Nope, that didn't work. Maybe because I put 10, because I'm an idiot. All right, so you can see this is what it would look like normally when you do the run the scan, but it would have replies or whatever. It'd say, give you information about it. All right, so how many IP addresses will Nmap scan if you provide the following range? So let's go ahead and do the same thing, but change the, so we'll go 10, 10, 0, 255. Whoops, 0, 2, 2, 2, 5, 5. 10, 10, 0 to 255, and then 101 to 125. And this will tell us, all right, that's going to be a lot of hosts. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and use this one right here and see the TAC in. That's going to give us the number. Go ahead and Control C that. Whoops. All right, so we just need to put the TAC in here. And you can see 6,400 IP addresses. Perfect. And you can see it even took a little bit of time for it to even run the scan or to run the report for it. And that was not even actually scanning anything. So that's how long it can take. The attack box is obviously not very fast, so that's a little bit different. But keep that in mind, that if you're actually scanning live hosts, this can take a very long time if you do a full scan. All right, the TCP IP model. Again, this is the OSI model. This is the TCP IP model. That's outside the scope of this. I'm not going to dive into it. But it's nice to see where it lays. It lays in the network layer. Okay, so if you guys aren't familiar, there's ICMP packets. That's what ping and things like that use. That's kind of what Nmap's bread and butter is as far as scanning. They do allow UDP packets as well. But what we're going to do, you guys can read this. I'm not going to read this to you verbatim. We're going to go back to the site like it says. All right. So now it's saying send a packet with the following: computer 1 to computer 3, and then a ping request. And packet type is ping request. What is the type of packet that computer 1 sent before the ping? So what it's saying is here is if we send this packet, what did it send before the ping, okay? So there's the ping. What was sent before? Well, they were blue, so ARP requests. So it's computer 1 is saying who's computer 3, okay? And you'll see that here. It's sent out to switch. Well, now it already knows. Now it's saved, so we need to clear this out. And I don't know how to clear it out on their box. That's fine, whatever. So it's sending the ARP packet. So what's happening is, did I not spell it right? Okay, what is the type of packet that computer 1 sent before the ping? How do we, I gotta figure out how to clear this out. Let's try to just change it up here. Okay, so it knows, the problem is it knows the, I don't know how to clear the ARP tables here. Let's go ahead and close that and try to open it back up. Maybe that'll help. There we go. Okay. Alright, so computer 1 to computer 3, and then packet type ping request. Okay. Now, what is the type of packet that computer 1 sent before the ping? So we send it, and computer 1's sending an ARP packet right there before the ping. So I'm not sure why it won't take that. I have no idea. Maybe it's asking for ARP packet's not taking. We'll try it. TCP packet, that's not taking. Maybe it's asking for ARP request. Okay, that's weird that it asks specifically what type of packet it's wanting, but then it's an ARP request. It doesn't matter. Just know that that answer is ARP request, not ARP packet like they're expecting, or like you would expect. Okay, so we know that it's sending it out. So again, because I got conjumbled there, what happens is computer 1 sends the actual ARP request to the switch. The switch then sends ARP request to everybody on the network and says, who's computer 3? Computer 3 then responds, says, I'm computer 3, and then computer 1 knows where the ping can go and then pings computer 3. Alright, so what is the type of packet that computer 1 received before being able to send the packet? And that's the same thing. Let's see if it... Okay, so what is the type of packet that computer 1 received before being able to send the ping? ARP response, maybe? Yep, so just keep in mind that they're looking for specifics even though they have it labeled up here. That's what I thought they wanted, is those labels. So how many computers responded to the ping request? Just one, because just the computer 1 responded. That's it. All right, and you notice now if we send it, it doesn't do the ARP request. That's because it's now saved, and here's the log. It's saved in the ARP tables. So you don't have to actually do this every single time, and this is how your computer does it. All right, so send a packet with the following: from computer 2 to computer 5. Boom, and we're going to say ping request. And you can see we need another ARP. Okay, now it should go to computer 5. And you can see it says another ARP. And the reason for that is because what's happening, you can only save ARP tables from network, from one or inside your network. So what it's doing is it's sending out the ARP request. The router says, hey, I can figure out where computer 5 is for you. Then sends an ARP request out to this network and then says, so the router actually controls the ARP table in that sense. What is the name of the first device that responded to the first ARP request? Okay, so the name of the first device, the router. What is the name of the first device that responded to the second ARP request? Okay, so what is the name of the first device that responded to the second? Would it be computer 5? Because he's the only one that responded, yep. Okay, send another ping request. Did it require new ARP request? So let's see. Does it require a new one? It does not, because now it's saved. So now when computer 2 sends it, now keep in mind, the switch here does not hold the ARP table for computer 5. Excuse me. The switch 2 does, but the router knows now to send it to switch 1 to switch 2. So no, it did not require a new one. Okay, cool. Easy enough. So if that's confusing to you guys, it's a lot easier than they make it seem here. But I think you guys are smart enough to be able to figure it out, especially just playing around with this. You can just refresh it and keep playing with it, and you can see what they're talking about. All right, so this one is important. Privileged users try to scan targets, okay? I'll just tell you this. If you're ever doing a pen test or a vulnerability assessment or anything like that, I would personally always use root or sudoer on a scan, an Nmap scan. Now, I understand why you wouldn't do that if you have, you guys have analysts or something below you that you're going to be saying, hey, do some scans, but you don't want them to have full root access, that type of thing. I get it. But Nmap doesn't allow you to do much without sudo access. So what it's going to do is it's going to allow the TCP scans, and that's about it. So keep that in mind. So it says here, when an unprivileged user tries to scan a target outside the local network, it's going to go to the TCP three-way handshake. If you guys don't know what that is, we'll cover it here. But just keep in mind that you have to use sudo, or else you're going to basically be getting very limited results. Okay, so this is really important. If you want to use Nmap to discover online hosts without port scanning the live systems, you can use Nmap SN targets. So what this is they're saying if you do Nmap, and you can see here's the SN syntax there. If you do that, what's going to happen is it's going to actually scan them and say, is it alive? Is it up and running? Yes or no? But it's not going to scan all their ports. So it's going to be quick, way faster than if you did a full scan. And it's, also going to give you, stop wasting time, because if you do a full scan on a bunch of hosts and they're not up and working, it's still going to scan for all those ports. So you're still wasting a lot of time. All right. If you want Nmap to only perform ARP scan without port scanning, you can use PR. So the important thing here is the PR does the ARP scan, okay? The important thing, though, to know is when you do an ARP scan, they have to be in the same subnet. If they're not, you're not going to get a result, okay? And this is what they're showing. This is what it looks like. Nmap TAC PR, which is the ARP request, and the SN says don't scan it, just tell me if it's alive. It sends the ARP request, the ARP replies, boom, perfect. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with an ARP spoofing attack, or there's a whole bunch of different names for it, but basically what people will do is just send the switch over and over, send a computer over and over ARP requests that say, hey, I'm computer 2, I'm computer 2, I'm computer 2, I'm computer 2. Well, every time it gets it, it saves it. It says, okay, that's computer 2. And then you request something from them, and they don't even ask. They just send it. It's a really cool attack, man-in-the-middle attack, but just keep in mind that's all using ARP 2. So when you're on the same subnet, things get a lot easier, we'll say. All right, so talking about ARP scans, we should mention a scanner built around ARP queries. So ARP scans, a really cool tool, but it only allows ARP scans. Keep that in mind. The reason that I keep saying that is because I've seen people that say, why don't we do an ARP scan, or why don't we spoof their ARP tables, or ARP poisoning, all that stuff. And if you're not on the same subnet, it's not going to work. It's pointless, because you're going from switch to switch. They don't carry over the ARP tables, okay? So keep that stuff in mind. All right, so ARP scan is a really cool tool, and it will actually allow you to scan using ARP rather than using the TCP/IP handshake type techniques that Nmap uses. So it's a really cool thing to know how to use and understand how to use, but it's not something that you're going to use all the time, okay? So here they're showing you sudo ARP scan, and they're scanning the entire subnet. And you can see here, and when they do that, they get these 3 hosts. Now you notice there's going to be a difference between ARP scan and Nmap scan. You notice they get the MAC addresses. Nmap won't give you the MAC addresses typically, unless you do an ARP scan on the same host. But ARP will always give you the MAC addresses, because that's how it associates IPs and the hosts. So you can see here, boom, boom, they get similar traffic, and if you show the Wireshark, you'll see it. So now we're going to be saying from computer 1 to computer 1, we want ARP request. All right. And try all possible. Okay, so it's saying try all. So we're on computer 1, so I can tell you just by looking at it who we're going to be able to get. So computer 2, if we send it, ARP request, do we get a response? Perfect. We got a response. Now I can tell you, computer 3, did we get a response? Get a response. Now router, I'll bet we get a response from the router. If you guys are wondering too why it says from computer 1 to computer 1, that just means it's a broadcast. You're saying from to everybody. Now let's go computer 4, and I'm betting we don't get a response. We might. Nope, no response. So you notice we're only going to get the responses in the same subnet. Not 3, I guess, because you can't see yourself. All right, so it's asking how many devices are you able to discover with this? 3, because you get in computer 3, 2, and the router. That's all you can get. All right, so I know this is a long video. I'm trying to move it along, guys. All right, so here you can say you can ping every IP on the target network and see who will respond. That's true. I'll tell you guys, a regular ping request is probably going to be blocked by most firewalls on the operational level, so keep that in mind. Now, if you go here, and this is going to tell you a little bit more how to get around that. So many firewalls block ICMP, which is what ping is. And it says it blocks it by default, which is in Windows, which I think I said in my last video. Windows blocks it by default, so keep that in mind. All right. Add the option PE. Remember to add the SN if you don't want to follow that with a port scan. So remember that SN syntax is very important because it's going to save you a ton of time when you're trying to just see if something's up and working rather than trying to scan it all at once. Because if you're scanning a huge network, typically you're going to see, okay, I want to scan everything and see what's up, and then I'll scan them individually rather than just scanning the whole network because it's going to take forever. All right. So here's how it works. It sends an ICMP echo request, and then if they want, or if they can with the firewall, they'll reply. That means they're up, okay? Now, you can see here they're going to scan with the PE with the echo request. They're going to scan the entire network. And then there's the SN. So that SN, again, will tell it, don't scan all the ports. Just give me a yes or no. Just that's all I want to know. And you can see... So you can see here they're using sudo, which is important. But you can see here it's saying host is up, host is up, host is up. Now you notice it's actually giving us the MAC address here. So we don't usually get those, but since those are in the same subnet, it's getting it from the ARP tables. So the MAC address is there. Now here you can see they're showing the exact same scan, but with these are not in the same subnet. And you notice we don't have the MAC addresses. So keep that in mind. If you happen to scan a network and notice that you're getting all the MAC addresses, those are in the same subnet as you. So there's a lot more attacks you can do that way, like ARP spoofing. All right, so timestamp requests. So this is just another type of scan that you can do. And you can see all it's showing you is it's just using a different type of ICMP. That's all these are doing. So the echo is using 1617, I think it is. Let's see. It didn't show us, but whatever. So here it's using 1314. They're just different types. It's not important that you know those. And you can see adding the PP option will allow this. And it's important to know these different types, at least be able to find them, okay, right, with the man pages. So that way you can go through and understand if you're getting blocked, or let's say every single box is coming back as it's not live, and you know some of those are turned on, maybe try something else, right? Because if this doesn't give you a result, maybe the next type will, because what happens is the firewalls are blocking these. So you're trying to find something that the firewall will allow in is what you're trying to do. So here, similar to the previous scan, this timestamps the request for every valid blah, blah, blah. And then here's the Wireshark results. Super easy. All right. Okay, so here's the other one. Mask queries use 1718. I apologize. This scan can be enabled with PM as shown. So again, it's just a different type of request or a different type of packet. Some will be allowed through the firewall, some will not. So you need to understand how to do that. If you don't know what some of these are, feel free to you research them. That's outside the scope of this box as well. All right, so in an attempt, we run the command, boom. Although based on earlier scans, we know that at least 8 hosts are up. This scan returns nothing. So this is a good example. Even though this scan here gave us 8 hosts, this scan is showing nothing. So the firewall is actually blocking these address mask requests, but it's not blocking the actual timestamp requests. So there's different ways to scan and get results is what it's saying. All right. So was the option required to tell Nmap to use ICMP timestamp to discover live hosts? So you go back up here and you look for the timestamp, and here's the timestamp PP. So boom. All right, what is the option required to tell Nmap to use ICMP address masks? And that's right here, the one we didn't get. So that's PM. And then what option requires the echo requests? So that's the very top one that we saw. In the echo right here is PE, and it's pretty easy. You know, you can use the man pages and figure these out really fast. All right. So now, let's keep going. I know this is a lot, guys. All right, so this is the three-way handshake. If you guys aren't familiar, every time you make a connection with a machine, you're going to do this three-way handshake. It's the Synack Act. What it is synchronize, acknowledge, I think it is, or something like that, and then acknowledge. It could be something different. That's just how I remember it. It's been a long time since I learned the actual definitions, and I don't remember if it's actually synchronized. But so this is what you're going to get by default with Nmap. So if you do an unauthorized scan, meaning you're not a privileged account like root, admin, something like that, this is what you're going to get. Okay. So if you want Nmap, this is what you're going to do. You could do, so this is the syn ping, blah, blah, blah. You guys can read this. This is easy. For example, this is just showing you the syntax, how you're going to put it on there. So if you do TAC PS21, it's just going to scan port 21. TAC PS 21 through 25, it's going to scan port 21 through 25. And then here you can specify 3 different ports. That's what it's telling you. So you can see here, privileged users can send TCP SYN packets and don't need to complete the handshake. So that's important because they call that a half open scan. So what that is see how you have to send this reset or here you have to send the acknowledge back. If you don't send the acknowledge back, it doesn't complete the handshake. And this isn't true nowadays, but it used to not detect it because it never finished the handshake, it never connected to you. So it thought, well, I'm not going to record that because I never connected to that person. Nowadays, it's pretty common that you're going to still get busted if you use that. But it used to be known as the half open scan and the stealth scan. It's not stealthy, I'll tell you that. All right. So here, and that's what it's showing you. So here it's telling you we're going to run it, boom, to scan the target VM subnet. And again, these are just different ways of scanning the same thing. But it's just trying to find live hosts. So it's important that you understand that they're different techniques to get the same results. These are the acknowledge ping. So this is actually kind of a neat little trick. You send the PA, it's an acknowledgement. So if you send an acknowledge to a computer, right, it's going to be like, oh, what the hell do you want? What are you talking about, right? I don't have a connection with you. I don't know you. So then it sends the reset scan, like reset the connection. I don't want anything to do with you. Well, excuse me. Well, here you can see, and it'll explain it here. So what it's going to do is if the host is up, it's going to reset. It's going to say, I don't know. But if you don't get a response, then the host isn't up, right? Now, keep in mind, this can be blocked by firewalls as well. So just because one scan results give you no host is up, doesn't mean it's true. So keep that in mind. All right. So UDP ping. If you guys aren't familiar with the difference between UDP and TCP, look it up. One is connectionless. UDP is connectionless. Connection oriented is TCP. So UDP does not need a connection. So this is a UDP ping scan. So you're going to be using TAC PU, and you're going to be using UDP packets instead of TCP packets. Now, you can see here, when you send a UDP packet, right, it doesn't need a connection. So if that port is open, it accepts it and moves on. So your computer not getting response is a response, right? Your computer not getting response says that baby's open because they never said anything. Now, if you get this, you send a UDP packet and they send back, hey, it's unreachable, destination not reachable. That means they've sent a response, meaning they saw the UDP packet and they set it off and said it's not reachable, meaning the port is closed because it didn't accept the UDP packet. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Again, these are all I don't want to say take with a grain of salt, but don't believe every single scan result you get because firewalls can block certain things, and I know I keep reiterating that, but it's important to know. All right. Mass scan is just a tool that will mass scan. So what that means is it's going to scan hundreds and hundreds of subnets or thousands at a time. It's used to scan, entire sections of the internet type thing. Okay, and you can see it's gonna, and it tells you here, it's very similar to Nmap. The difference is it's going to scan much faster, so you're more likely to miss something. So keep that in mind. It's not as in depth. It's going to give you a lot of results, but it's also going to be less accurate. And I don't want to say it's not accurate because it's still going to be accurate, but it's going to be less accurate. All right. So here it says which TCP ping scan does not require a privileged account. And if you go to the top, you remember the first one, the TCP SYN ping. And that's by default what your regular connection scan, by the way. Which TCP ping scan, and by the way, another thing I wanted to say, it says it in here, but if you try to run any other scan on Nmap without a privileged account, keep in mind, it may not say anything, but it's going to run a TCP SYN ping if you are using a regular account and not a privileged account. So keep that in mind. Even though it may look like it's running, it's going to be running this scan right here because it's not privileged. All right, which TCP ping scan requires a privileged account? And that would be, I think the TCP ARP ping. Yep. TCP ARP ping. All right. And I know you guys can barely see that, but what option do you need to add to Nmap to run a TCP SYN ping scan on the telnet port? So you'd have to run the, and here it'll probably tell you. So yeah, you just want to run the TAC P. And you can see PS23. You're just specifying what port. Super easy. Using a reverse DNS lookup. All right, so this is, if you guys don't know what DNS is, it's pretty simple. Again, not really what we're trying to teach here, but this is covering it. So DNS just tells you what host belongs to what IP. So a reverse DNS lookup just asks, hey, give me your IP addresses, pretty much, right? So here it's saying if you don't want to send such DNS queries, you can use TAC in to skip. That's actually important because if you don't want to touch their DNS server, because let's say you know that the more stuff you touch, the more logs you're going to be in, okay? So it's important to know that, hey, you can not do certain parts of the scan. So if I don't want to look for the DNS, I don't want to know the names, I don't care about the names, right? I'm only worried about the IP addresses right now. Don't ask the DNS. So then there you get those options to skip it. And like it says, by default, Nmap will look up online hosts. So you can use the option TAC R to query the DNS server even for offline hosts. So what that means is I'm still going to ask the DNS server, hey, what's this IP address? What's the name? Even though it's not online, it might have a record of it. That's, again, this is more where you're touching more stuff. So just keep that in mind when you're doing scans, if you're trying to be real sneaky or not. Okay, so we want Nmap to issue a reverse DNS lookup for all the possible hosts on a subnet. So again, all possible hosts, it's TAC R, and that does offline as well. All right, guys, I know that was a lot. I definitely recommend you guys look through this box yourself. This is a very good box, and hopefully the next ones do more in-depth with the scanning. But this one was just showing all the different ways to scan, and I think it's really important that you understand that, because what I see a lot of people do when they get started in hacking is they'll scan something, and then they'll go, I know it's up because it's a test environment, right? So they'll know it's up. They'll go, I'm not getting any results. I don't know what to do. Try new scans. Try anything, especially in test environments. That's the whole point of learning. So try things. Go in there, do one of these scans. If it doesn't work, cool, do another one. Doesn't work, cool, do another one. If they don't work, fine. That means the firewall is blocking them. Find a way around that firewall, and then you'll have success. So guys, hopefully you guys liked it. I know this video is longer than I normally do. I try to keep them under 30 minutes, but hey, I think this one had good information. I think it's important to build upon this and keep going from here. So hopefully you guys liked it, and I appreciate you guys. Thanks, guys.